Okay, call the meeting to order. I'll do the roll call, I guess. Charles Wilsey.
Here.
Karen Piklowski.
Here.
Tracy Turner.
Here.
Denise Simmons. Randy Booth.
Here.
Tom Spencer.
Here.
Paul Frechette. Danielle. Janice. Mike LaFave. Tim Delaney.
Here.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. The only 4 that's not here.
Okay, question. Do the people that aren't here, did they tell you they weren't gonna be here?
One did, yeah, they'll be here. Need approval of the agenda. One thing I'd like to change on this agenda though, before we approve the agenda, is after number 6, I'd like to put number 7, public comment. I know it's kind of jammed in there together. Oh, here's Mr. Frechette.
Morning, Paul.
And another thing under the headings here, when I was correctly spelling people's names and putting people in sequence here, I left Mr. Delaney's name also, put him under Michael Fave, Tim Delaney, controller.
I have a question. Okay, that's a question. So I appreciate big time how fast and prompt you've got this going. I just wanted, typically what I've seen in the past is when we start a committee,
I already
we all
know,
talk who's gonna be the,
I already know,
I mean, I'm not saying I wanna be it, but I'm just saying
I know,
we usually make it
I know.
a discussion.
and I'll explain that in a second. So, you have a motion to approve the agenda with changes?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
Need a second?
I'll support it.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Okay. What I wanted to do is have each person introduce themselves and tell them what the responsibilities are and what their position and what their jobs are, what their responsibilities are. And the reason I want that is because a lot of people that are involved in this budget process don't know what some of the offices do and what their responsibilities are, especially equalization. That is the big question right there. So I'm going to start with Mr. Booth down the end.
I'm the equalization director. We're responsible for doing studies of the properties that sell to make sure that the local units are that there's some conformity to how they're doing the assessing. And so to do that, we look at the commercial agricultural sales we've had in the preceding 2 years. And we do studies of those sales, determine what we think the appropriate values are, compare it to the levels of assessment for the class with the local units, and then determine whether they need to raise or lower their assessments. We also handle the apportionment session, which is all the local units. We review the millage levies that they request. If they have to have rollbacks, we have to certify whether they've been handled properly and present that to the county commissioners for approval in October. Additionally, which none of the non-statutory duties are, we prepare all of the tax bills for the county.
We do appreciate
And
it.
assessment.
Thank you. Thank you, Randy. Thank you.
Mr. Frechette.
Paul Frechette, the under sheriff of the Sheriff's Office, basically budget and people management and second command and jack of all trades. So it needs to be done in the sheriff's office, usually my hand somewhere in it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wilson?
Charles Wiltsey, County Commissioner. I only represent Mills Township, of course, represent the whole county. I'd say Commissioner's #1 goal is to set the budget for the county.
Delaney?
Delaney, Administrator Controller, and for the purposes of this committee and the budget, my responsibility is actually preparing and proposing a budget to the board, monitoring that budget throughout the year and recommending changes as they become necessary. I think that's it for this committee. It's kind of a mouthful by itself.
Yep. Karen?
Karen Piklowski, Ogemaw County Treasurer. My main functions are investing the dollars for the community. I am a certified public funds investment manager. It's a national certification. I'm also a chairperson of the land bank. One of my other main functions is to collect the delinquent taxes.
Thank you. Tracy?
Tracy Turner. I work in the clerk's office, Chief Deputy County Clerk. I do the payroll and the accounts payable for the county. So I guess I see all the invoices that come in.
Right, Danielle?
Danielle Janice, Court Administrator for the 82nd District Court in Magistrate, for Ross County and Ogemaw County. I oversee all of the financial functions of the court, the business operations, the budget, HR personnel, ensuring that the courts are complying with statute and court rule by guidance of the judge. Jack of all trades.
Mr. Spencer?
Tom Spencer, IT Director. I started in May of 2018, and I maintain all the technology for the county building, the jail, the sheriff's office, the transit, part-time at the airport as needed, and the RV park. I make recommendations to the board probably every year or so about what we need to replace and let them source the funding for it.
Thank you. I'm Brenda Simmons. I'm a county commissioner. I represent Edwards, Horton, and part of West Branch Township. And we are responsible for passing the balanced budget to start each year and do policies and procedures. Thank you so much. Purpose of this committee, and I'll tell you why I put myself there as chairperson, is because number one, I started this committee and I asked everybody to come, did all the legwork to make this committee happen. And I didn't want to just have a meeting this morning to elect a chairperson of this board because I wanted some work to be done. And that's why I did that. So when I created this, created the committee so all of us would be able to look and discuss the entire budget rather than just our single piece of the budget. So you know what's going on throughout the county. And of course, we have a tendency to focus on our own area and protect our own area, and that's only natural. But in this particular case, when it involves the whole county, we have to look at the whole county and not just at ourselves. I'm sure you're all aware that we have just laid off 18 people, 11 part-time. I think it's 7 full-time or 8 and 10. And that was a very hard decision to make. I did not enjoy doing that. But when there aren't any funds available to make a balanced budget, that was our only choice. And of course, with every organization, personnel is your biggest expense, always. And that's the only thing we have control of. A lot of expenses we have absolutely no control of. So I hope you keep an open mind about why this committee exists. And I consider us as a team right now. With working together to resolve our financial difficulties that we're having right now. And I've chosen the members of this committee to provide information about how we arrived at this financial crisis. I think I chose the right people to be here, key players, you know, the areas. And I call this really a financial crisis, and that's what I call it. I would like to continue to be your chairperson, but you can select anybody you want. So, I mean, that's not an agenda to select a chairperson, but it's up to you. What are your desires?
I have no interest in being the chair. Again, I appreciate you doing this. I just feel that should be open communication.
I have no
Anyone
interest in being
else
the chair either.
is interested, we can know now.
Well, I would like to be the chair. If you want to have a motion to make me the chair, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to have Brenda be the chairperson
I'll support
of our
that
budget
motion.
committee. Do you want me to since Denise isn't here, do you want me to take some notes? Yes.
Or I can just take it off Zoom.
Yeah,
Your choice. I can either.
No,
make
I
notes for
like
you,
it.
Or you can have Denise do it later. Or,
No, I have it started. So to start off with, I have 3 people I'd like to talk about.
are we gonna vote on that motion?
Oh, yeah.
So I'll make quick notes that we approve the agenda. Motion to make Brenda chair.
Need a second.
Randy did.
Randy, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Okay,
Should we do a vice chair? just in case Brenda's not here.
Yes.
I'll nominate Charlie for the vice chair.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Tom. I'll accept.
Hoping that will come at the same time, but I don't hunt, so you're good.
Charlie, vice chair. So that was by Tom, second by,
second.
oh, I already seconded.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Brenda,
All in favor?
aye.
All opposed? Okay, Mr. Wiltie is the vice chair. Let me put that on there so I don't forget when I type this up again. So I've selected three people because doing the taxes and how we receive our money is kind of a complicated issue in some areas, and a lot of people do not understand how all this takes place. So I've selected Randy Booth, Karen Piglowski, and Tracy Turner, and I'd have Randy Booth go first, who's the equalization person, because that's kind of where our taxes start from.
We'll check this out there.
You're gonna have to show it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Last night we changed the budget committee from 8 to 10, I only ran 8 copies, so I forgot this morning to make additional.
I made my 2 extra copies.
So just one thing, this is a small piece of the budget. In my job and with the tax bills, we look at the tax revenues. And so in the county, there's whole other revenue streams. The courts, the jail, the sheriff's department, they bring in revenues that I have no knowledge of or anything like that. And it's a big component because if those revenues are down, then they need to be subsidized by the general fund levies and the tax levies. But in the tax levies, there's been a lot of discussion at commissioners meetings about a Headley override millage and whether to pursue that or not. So Brenda had asked me to do just kind of a quick explanation of what Headley is and what's going on. So in the 1970s, they passed an amendment to the state constitution. They put in Representative Headley spearheaded the movement. And so at that time, taxes were going up 10, 15% every year. And so communities were generating their growth was going up 10, 15, 20% every year. Taxpayers were upset about their tax bills going up. And so what Headley took into account is if the property values were going up higher than the rate of inflation, they could roll back those millages. And so we started in 1965 with 7.2 mills for operation of the county. And so by this year, 2023, we're at 6.091 mills. So we're approximately 1.1 mills less than we could levy back in the 60s. And Headley's, it's a component, but the other big thing that happened is in 1994, the voters passed Proposal A, which capped the property taxes at the rate of inflation. Again, the 90s saw tremendous growth in property taxes. Assessments, property, housing was going up 20% a year in a lot of the state, and people were complaining about their tax revenues. So they capped properties as long as you own your property. You're capped at the rate of inflation or 5%, whichever is less. So that hampered the growth of the assessments that we levy taxes on. So now if we have a year where housing values go up at 10%, our tax revenues are capped at 2 or 3% for most years because that's the rate of inflation, but we're also losing millage at that same time. So I did a comparison sheet here and it kind of shows the assessed values and the taxable values. And I've looked through everything in the offices. I'm missing about 4 years of assessed values, but I've got taxable values from 94 on and the operating millages and the tax levies. And so I kind of did it in a spreadsheet to show year by year what happened. In the 1990s, in 1993, the county had the ability to level 6.7758 mills. Now they didn't levy that. In the 90s, if you can look, there's 7 years where they levied the exact same millage rate. All of those years, that millage rate, the county did not have to levy their full millage. So they didn't levy the full millage. And then finally, like in 1999 or 2000, the Headley override began to take effect where the county was levying the full millage that they could So Headley overrode what they could collect, so the millage levy started coming down at that point. So in the tax levy on here, it's just the general. The basic from the taxable value times the tax rate that was levied that year. And so I kind of did a cumulative total. So overall, the assessments went up 385% during this time period. The percent change is incorrect in there. That tabulation didn't work in a spreadsheet, and I didn't fix that. The milli that we're allowed to levy is 90% of what it was. So we've lost about 10% on the ability to levy since 94. The rest of that had gone prior to that. DDAs, which we hadn't talked about. So a lot of the new growth that we've had is a commercial investment in DDA districts. So the DDA districts in 1994 were 4,332,000. Last year, they're 42,323,000. So that's a 977% increase over what was there before. So when we see this assessed value going up in the original tax levy, we're still levying those taxes, but the county doesn't receive the money. It goes to the DDA districts. And so that's a sizable loss to the county.
$250,000.
And so, yeah, I kind of calculated on that, the capture, what it's gone up, it's about 923%. And again, it doesn't match the district because of the capped values. It doesn't keep up with that. About 5-6 years ago, they started disabled veterans exemptions. And so with BSNA, I can do a report every year and I know right where we're at. Before that, I'm just estimating what they were because we didn't have the ability to do those reports in Pontum. But this year we're losing about $54,000 in taxes to disabled veterans. That's just county general operating. That's not counting the other millages and whatnot. And then the state also started to do personal property exemptions for small businesses. They started at 80,000. Now they're at 160,000. And so we've lost most of the personal property tax revenue from the county. And so I've kind of calculated that as well. We're losing about 13,200,000 in value on personal property. So again, it's $80,000 this year. Now, this said, that's a hard one to calculate because this year alone, Myers brought in about $4 million worth of personal property value for the different businesses at the new store. All of that goes to the DDA district. So I'm showing a $13 million loss, but in effect, we also lost $4 million of that. So it's more like $17 million loss because when we have these new businesses come in, when all these come in, there's millions of dollars in personal property. It reduces the loss we get. So the reimbursement we get from the state is we lose the reimbursement we should be getting from the state. And the money that's coming in is going to the DDAs. It's not coming to the county either. So the personal property loss is pretty sizable for Ogemaw County. I've got a value on here, but there's no real way without going parcel by parcel to calculate that, but it's probably a couple $100,000. Personal property loss in the city of Rose City when Consumers Energy moved out and the one big factory closed down, they lost $2 million of personal property in 1 year in Rose City. Their DDA was negative for quite a few years when I first got here. They're just starting to recover from that. So anyhow, our net tax is about 236% more than it was in 1993. About 2.5 times, so it kind of explains where we're at, some of the exemptions, what's cut into the budget that has affected us over time. So we're not getting the same dollars we could or we should be getting if none of these were in place.
If I can add to that, we also have, due to inflation, increased poverty in our community. And I'm seeing more and more people ask for the poverty exemption paperwork.
Yeah, this doesn't account any of those exemptions because there's I can run a report, but that fluctuates every year and it's hard to go through the disabled veterans, because it's been a hot topic for municipalities, BSNA has that built into the program. You can run that because, and there's been a lot of talk, MAC, MML and, MTA have been proposing from year one that it should be a state credit on income tax, not, just wiping out the tax bills. And, there's been a lot of talk this year. They had 5 or 6 proposals. All the bills the governor just passed didn't do that. They've got 3 new changes to the disabled veterans exemption. The state doesn't want to reimburse the units. They don't want to, they gave the credit, but they don't want to pay for it. And so that goes on all the local units for all the millages. But yeah, poverty exemptions, it's something that's always been there and
And the governor
And
just this week signed where they're going to also make it, if they're granted a poverty, they can be retro for 1 year. She
really,
Signed this.
I did not see that from the state tax
Yeah,
commission this
that
week.
she signed this week, so.
So while they're making changes to that, it comes to the same thing every time. They still have not held the local units harmless on that, and there's no recapture of those taxes lost.
Excuse me, so the bottom line is, there's mandates from the state. And it only affects county governments. And does not affect state government income, is that correct? Like exemptions for 100% disabled veterans, like the DDAs.
And poverty is 100%.
And the poverty level. And there's a couple other things too that you had mentioned,
So the
so.
difference being a poverty exemption is a local unit decision. They have their own policies in place. The disabled veterans exemption, the state has made that determination. And the local units really have no say in it. If they qualify, they qualify. Where they can, the townships can decide if they get 100% poverty, 50%, or the different range in the asset test. There's different things the local units can look at when they grant a poverty exemption. So each community has a say in what that exemption looks like for their community.
But when you talk about the 100% disabled veterans, that was a state mandate and we don't get a reimbursement from the state or anything for that. That's just a total loss
And it
for us.
also extends to the spouse,
Yes,
even after the veteran is deceased,
Forever now.
forever.
Any house that they own, they don't have to stay in a house where they're married and they own. That's one of the new laws that just changed. The spouse can live anywhere in the state of Michigan and they're
Even
exempt.
Even a new purchase.
Yes,
She
new home,
can,
new.
she or he could move to a new home, purchase it and have the exemption extended to that new purchase.
That was just signed into law last week. The state tax commission will have the new forms November 14th and then, anyhow, but yeah, they keep it. One of the problems is, and it's just like Proposal A in 1994, when the state drafted Proposal A and it was passed, they did not want to be like Prop 13 in California. And it was a big selling point when they did it. Prop 13 in California was put in the 1960s. And if you gave it to your children or relatives, you could have a property in the same family for 40 years. And the property taxes were capped at the 1960 levels. If it went to a different property owner, then it uncapped. When Michigan did Proposal A specifically, they left that language out. So if you pass away, the property goes to your children, or you give the property to your children, it would uncap. Because they didn't want these legacies like they had in California. Since that time, they keep adding exemptions. They added that if agricultural property remains in agricultural production, it doesn't uncap. They file a form, it doesn't uncap. And affinity transfer, if you sell it to your children, grandchildren, it doesn't uncap. So they've taken away, as Proposal A was started, they keep adding more exemptions, so these properties are not uncapping at the rate that they should be.
so then my understanding is what you're trying to tell me, we're almost like California.
We are at this point.
Yes,
And I don't know that California exempts agricultural property. We might be worse right now, because then we're gonna see agricultural property in the state of Michigan is going up at an alarming rate. What they're paying, there's parts of the state, they're $12,000 an acre now for farmland. And as long as it stays in farm production, they're paying taxes on $1,000 an acre.
Um. But aren't some of these farmlands being sold for, like solar panels?
Yes. In some counties, yes.
And then if that were to happen here, how would that affect us?
As far as the property, if it's in, if they have solar panels, then the class would change from agricultural land to industrial production. And so the average investment for an acre of solar is, 970,000 from what I've been reading. And so if you have a 20-acre solar farm, you're looking at roughly a $20 million investment. So yes, it would net a $10 million increase in assessments, not counting the land values.
So then that would increase our income if that were to happen.
Yes.
I just hope we have enough property to grow food on it.
Well, in the way the table's set up, it depreciates very rapidly. Within 5 years, those revenues are about a third of what they are in the first year for the taxes.
Because of depreciation.
After about 15 to 20 years, the solar panels aren't viable. You either have to remove them or rebuild the field because they lose about 2% production each year. So at 15 to 20 years, they start failing and they either have to invest a ton of money and rebuild them, or most of them rebuilt and plan they can leave in 20 years.
If they leave it right now, the plan, if they leave it in 20 years, do they just leave the solar panels there?
It's up to the leases with the individual property owners. So in our township, we passed a solar ordinance and they have to, part of any permit they're gonna get from the township to put in a large scale solar, they have to put the land to its natural state if they leave the property.
We did the same thing in Aranac for Moffett.
Yeah.
All right,
And so MTA's push that, they've got that tool out there for any of the individual townships. Now, Ogemaw County has county zoning. Most of the townships aren't zoned. I don't know whether it's addressed in the county plan or not. But the state's looking at taking away all that local control anyhow. So whether the Public Service Commission will require that, and when they'll be approving the siting, not the local communities probably.
interesting. So as we can see, go ahead, Tom.
I'm just curious if you have any idea, say we were to pitch to the voters about the Hadley and we were able to collect the full amount. What would that cost the average taxpayer and what would that net us? I mean, $5, $10 a year? You don't have to do it right now.
I can give you one off my head, but
Good question.
I mean, because obviously part of this is gonna be the education problem for taxpayers, so they understand.
so the average house right now is about 150,000, so you'd be looking about $100 in additional tax.
A year.
$90 on a 75,000 taxable value. And I mean, we're a poor community. We have a lot of homes that are less than that, so obviously it would be less, but the average home price in the US right now is 416,000. Michigan's less than that, but we're seeing a lot of home sales in $200,000 and $300,000. So I think 150,000 may be about the middle. I can run a report and find out what the median home price is if we decide to do a campaign for that. So we have the information, say, and it's good to have a chart. If your assessment is 25,000 or 50,000 or 75,000, this is what the increase would mean to you.
On our flyer, back when we tried to promote this the first time, back in 2016, we had on our flyer that it would cost the average residential property owner approximately $50 a year, and the commercial property owner $130 per year, and agriculture property estimated to be an average of $57 per year. But that was back in 2016.
Yeah. And even in the last 7 years, land values, property values have gone up substantially.
Randy, if there'd be an organization that would like you to come and speak about this for them, would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, I can do that.
I think it's important that people that are not hearing this today, people in organizations and their families, do hear this, because this is pretty significant in the funds that we are not getting. And people think we are a high pay, high tax, and we're not high pay, and we don't receive a lot of taxes. And it's a big misconception throughout this county, I think. And I think we just, we're all aware, we just had 18 layoffs, which is very significant. That's 18 families that now are looking for another job. And I do feel terrible. I know how I would feel if it happened to me. I've been there. I've been there. Believe me, I've been there. And it's a terrible feeling. That's why it was so hard to make that decision. So, but I think it's, I'm gonna put it out there, and if they would like to call you, so you can, they can make an appointment with you.
And just so everyone knows, this preliminary list, I just pulled off reports I had to try and get it, so we had some, so we could discuss it. If the decision is made to go for a Headley override millage, then, you know, obviously there would be a campaign to pass that, and Mary in the treasurer's office has volunteered to help me do a PowerPoint presentation, so that if any of us are speaking to groups, we've got the same information and something that we can show the charts and the statistics and kind of go over with people to explain it.
When do you think that PowerPoint may be available?
Well, we have to pull our.
Fairly shortly after they
First.
decide.
End of
to do what to
November.
do with it.
We have to put it, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna have to have it by November 21st to the clerk's office to put it on the
The
bill.
PowerPoint will not be ready by then because I've got to prepare all the winter tax bills in the next 2 weeks, and Mary's been helping me work the DDA in West Branch City. We had some issues with, and so that Karen can, so we know when we reconcile with them at the end of the tax year, we want to be what they're capturing and what we believe they should be capturing don't match. So we had to go through some different spreadsheets to do some analysis with that. And we're working on that right now. And so my point to that is we want to have that information to the city before December 1st. And I've got to have the winter tax bills out. And I'm going to take about 4 days off to hunt this year. So I'm going to do the tax bills and have them proofed before November 15th. So I could work on it when I get back, but.
I don't think you're the Lone Ranger. I think there's a lot of guys on the hunt.
Well, the last 3 years I've been doing taxes during hunting season. I haven't gone, and so I made the decision this year. I'm gonna have the taxes done early so I can go and hunt.
Well, good luck.
So I'd like just to make a comment on Headley. Obviously, I'm a big supporter of this, and I think this is something that, you know, if done right, the process is done right, I think we have a real good chance we could pass it. I think that, you know, obviously we know time wise, we'd have to have it by the 21st of November. I feel that we'd want it on the February ballot. I think that would be our best chance. Now, that doesn't give us a lot of time. So again, we have to have a crystal clear message. We have to be exactly on the same page. And we need to figure out what our best options are to reach every single person in the county that we can. Obviously, a PowerPoint presentation, you know, put on Facebook pages and people can share it and everything. That's huge. Obviously, then we'd have to have, you know, some people quarterbacking this, and that message has to be the same. And we just have to educate the people, plus tell our residents exactly what they're going to get out of this. So with us doing all the strategy to get it set up, we also need to do the work to figure out, okay, well, what we know what the money roughly is going to be. Well, what are we going to use that for? Because that has to be part of our campaign. So, you know, we don't have a lot of time, but we, you know, we got to set deadlines, you know, like say we want to be by December 10th, we want to have the campaign started, and we got to say, okay, well, this person's going to do this person's going to be doing that. We don't want to be overlapping, tripping over each other. I mean, we got to be impeccable on this in order for this to work.
Just a couple of things. First, everybody's aware, Headley override language is actually written in statute, and it's not friendly. Okay, I just don't know the way to put it. I honestly believe it was written so that it would be convoluted and people would really question it. So that's something we'll need to think about overcoming as well. I'm thinking about this. We need to do a bit of a reality check on the February idea. Normally, I mean, I'm all for it, and let's have at it. But reality is this, that's a presidential primary and the party with, all the candidates, to choose from is the Republicans right now. So that's going to draw a certain audience to the polls. Is that audience going to be friendly to a question like this, or would we be better off waiting until either May or August for something like a Headley override that would have a better chance of passing? That's just a conversation that these in your minds, because we don't want to set ourselves up for failure either. So we've got the double whammy here. You've got language that's already not user friendly, and an audience that maybe is not going to be receptive to this sort of thing anyway. Are we setting ourselves up for defeat going in February?
And I kind of wondered that too, because I've never seen a ballot issue on a presidential primary. It's just not something I've ever seen voted on. But there are other options as well. 2 of the townships in our county have operational millages. Instead of doing the Headley override, or the Headley override failed, they went back to the voters with a 0.5 mil or a 1 mil operational millage, and the voters passed that. And so at least 2 of the townships have operational millage. Now, with Headley override, if that's passed, that's permanent. It starts rolling back again, but for 20 years, it's going to be fairly consistent. If you do an operational millage, it's subject to renewal, like every other millage, every 4 to 6 years. Whatever the time frame that you put into that.
A Headley override would be permanent, you said?
It resets
they
it back to
approve
the 7.2 mils if it's there, and then each year it'd be subject to the rollback as it was previously.
So that 7.2 would be subject to the rollback if that happens again.
Yep.
So, whereas operational millage would not be.
No, operational millage is subject to rollback every year, but it would have to be voted on. If people voted in for 4 years, 5 years, 6
Right.
years, it goes back up for election. But every millage is subject to rollback through Headley.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's why when you look at
Oh,
the
that's right.
the transit, EMS, they all have odd millage amounts because they've been rolled back minimally. Most of those millages have not been around that long, so they're not as significant as the counties.
So in other words, if this were to pass, everybody who has a millage benefits,
No, this would just be the general fund.
just the general, okay?
Yeah, yeah, each individual millage would have to now. EMS, 911, transit, they can always ask for a different amount than historically in Ogemaw County, they've just renewed the millage at the rollback rate. They have the option to go back to the full millage. I think it was Foster Township last election. The way their ballot wording was the previously authorized 1 mil, can they go back to that 1 mil? And the voters approved that. And so they all have the option because they're up for election every 4 years. They can determine what amount they want to levy. Transit had 2.3 mils, two different levies. Now, when they're up for renewal this year, they can decide on a levy amount they want, if they want to keep the 0.3 that they've always had, or if they want to ask for a different amount, or if they want to do 2 different amounts. There's options that they have, and their board will make those recommendations to commissioners along the way.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if they have a 0.3 mil and they ask for 0.38, that's not a renewal anymore.
It's a new millage.
That's a new millage.
And so one of the options is much like that, they could do for a 0.3 renewal on existing what's been in place. And then they could also ask for an additional millage like they did a couple of years ago. The second 0.3 was an additional millage. So that's one of their options.
So I think with this conversation, I appreciate you brought up, Tim, because there's so many different things we got to talk about. That's why we're here. This is good stuff. We also have to, what we've been talking for a couple of weeks is we got to get the other stakeholders involved that do plan on putting on a millage. And that needs to be part of this conversation too, because we got to see where those are going to be going. So that's just as important.
And it may be wise to wait till May or August. Because whether we do it in February, May or August, the money cannot be levied until next December. It's not going to affect the 2024 budget.
Yeah.
Maybe give more time to educate the public.
One more time too.
It gives more time to do a good initiative to have better success at passing it.
Maybe we should look at May. The only reason I was looking at February is because it would give us time to know which direction we have to go in. Do we not have to lay people off and maybe hire people back that we laid off? Or do we have to lay off more people? And I don't want it to be last minute. You know, I think we owe it to the people that work here, what's going on with this budget and what we, as a county commissioners and Mr. Dolahanty, what we have to do. Because at that point, we will know what our options are. If it fails or if it passes, then it tells us which road we have to go down. And I don't want to wait until August, September to figure out which road that is.
Well, and I don't know that you can do a good job of that by February election.
And you probably
If you
right.
wait till May, then you might be able to have the framework in place for the 24-25 budget and say, because we know we've plugged 500,000 a year of ARPA money in to sustain the budget, that money is going to be gone. So moving forward, not only do that shortfall we have right now, we have another $500,000 that we have to replace. So if we're looking at with the anticipated revenues and the anticipated expenses, are there going to be more reductions in staff and what does that look like? So that when we're meeting with people, they can make the choice and they understand that if this doesn't pass, this is what we're looking at. We're looking at more reduction in staff and services.
I talked to Jody in Roscommon, because you guys just had a millage that failed. And she said one of the biggest complaints was that the public did not know what services would be lost. And she said if we were to do it again, we would make sure that we were able to educate the public and what the millage would pay for and what services would be lost if it failed.
What was the language on that millage?
I sent it to you and
Well, the language in the millage itself is onerous, like Tim said, but that's not, but it's in 2016 when they did it here. And again, I was at public meetings and commissioners would address it. And people ask, well, what's gonna be cut? Well, if it doesn't pass, we're gonna have to make some budget cuts. Well, that's ambiguous. No, does that mean you're laying off deputies? Does it mean you're cutting emergency management or DDA or these other things? EDC, not DDA, but
Right.
so
That's a nice
with
cut.
this year's budget, you've already made some cuts. But in logistically, by May, you should have the framework that okay, we're another $500,000. That's gonna have to be through attrition somehow, and what's gonna guide that? What is it gonna look like? And so that when you're talking to people that if the budget doesn't pass, we're looking at these types of cuts and services. We're no longer gonna be able to provide this, or
And
this.
when we did it the last time in 2016, MSU was one of the cutting on the chopping block. So personally, I went out to a couple of farms, made videos with their family members who had been through our 4-H and MSU programs. They made video clips that we got out on social media, which was huge. It made a huge impact. It actually ended up helping MSU pass their millage individually. But I feel like we did try to the best of our knowledge to educate the public on what was going to be lost, but the board hadn't made any definitive decisions in order for the people that were promoting it to share to the public. So we definitely have to have the board informing this committee, okay, what are you going to cut so that the committee can educate the public on that. We didn't have that factor the last time, other than MSU was definitely one that they were going to cut.
And so as this committee's looking at it, making a recommendation to commissioners, I think at some point, we will be involved in the process. Say, look, these are the types of services maybe we have to cut, we can't afford to do anymore.
I have two questions. When do summer tax bills go out?
July 1st.
So a little bit after May then, because I mean, I don't know. A newsletter with a tax bills, can we do that as a county? I know our township does it with our fall tax bills. We sent out a newsletter about what we spent on roads, what we did for this. Everybody gets a tax bill.
It's very inexpensive to put, like on the back of the tax bill, you can put a notice or with assessment change notices. Now you could do a newsletter in the end of February, first part of March. They've changed, so now that's a 2-page document, so you can't print on the backside. But that said, to do a county-wide stuffing would be pretty inexpensive.
We're already sending an envelope. with a piece
Now
of
that
paper.
said,
We would need to-
that money cannot come out of the county general
Right.
operating money. That's gotta come. You and I gotta say, we'll throw $50 a hat to put this in there because it can't come out of the county money. But our printer is very inexpensive. So for a township like Clacking, it's $500. But a township size of West Branch Township, it's only $700. It's the initial fee to do the $135 to set the type. The actual printing is cheap. So for a small township, but if we're doing a countywide, it's 25,000 parcels. And the cost is very minimal to do something like that. So at that point, we do all the assessment change notices. So if we had stuff that we wanted to get out there, we could put it, and that's sent to every property owner,
That goes out in March,
1st of March.
March.
By
So do it with.
typically 3rd to 4th week of February, that goes out to everyone prior to March order review. So that would be very effective, and I could get a quote from KCI to do, countywide, if we wanted to do an insert like that, a 1-page, then they can do black and white, color, whatever they want, but,
And send
like I
out.
say, we would have to do a campaign where, because I know you can't spend county funds to do
I donate to it for sure.
Mhm.
To make-
Well, that's how I got started. I said to
Like that.
Greg Elig and Bruce Reeds came in my office and I looked at both of them and I said, give me some money so I can print some flyers. And that's how we got started.
Yeah,
I was out of their wallets.
that
So,
was a good campaign last time. I think, if I remember correctly. I think there was an article in the newspaper that went and said something about
yeah, thanks, Bob Perlberg.
the only people that be paying taxes for that millage would be the homestead property.
Mhm.
And I did not know the newspaper said that until I said to my dad, they voting for this millage, right? And he said, no, I'm not voting for this millage, just homestead property that's being taxed on this. I said, that's not right. I read the paper and sure enough, there it was.
The
Right
week before.
Right before the vote.
It was the week before the
Way
election.
before the vote, and there's no way to
That
counteract that.
No,
didn't help.
no.
No,
After spending every Friday night for the entire summer handing out flyers. All through the summer, we had Friday night celebrations that the
yeah,
Chamber of Commerce did. So I had a
and going,
easel and a poster board that I schlepped out there. We all wore t-shirts and every Friday I had somebody else that would come with me. Every Friday night, the entire summer, and we were this close.
in spite of the
Truthfully, I
paper.
think I was within about 70 votes of winning.
And it may
Oh,
be
you didn't-
having
I know,
having
that was,
information, so the paper's got the correct information, put articles in and. I found from the townships, it's very helpful if I give them the articles and they can change around some, but at least the information's accurate and
Actually,
they don't mind taking the information from you. It's a lot easier for them.
that's why when I ran, I emailed everything to them, so it had. And they took it right off,
thanks.
printed it, so.
So do you guys think if we did the ballot in May, we do a flyer and a March assessment notice? At least we'd be touching every,
I think.
not voter, but taxpayer.
Because we send that out to every taxpayer.
Mhm.
Like you
Right,
said, it
not
would
every
be-
voter,
would
but
be a
every
lot of renters,
taxpayer.
but it would, every property owner would get that and every property owner pays taxes, so it's relevant to send that information to
And
them.
they're more likely to vote too.
Right.
Yes,
Yes.
they are.
Now, the schools, is that in May, if the schools are gonna go, is usually
Yes.
they go, correct? I know Breck was trying to get some information. Have we heard anything?
Not that I've heard of.
That was a good idea, Tom.
But I think May, if we don't do February, I think May would probably be the best guy. The earlier we know, the better it is that,
But you also
Yeah.
need time
If
to
the school
educate.
doesn't have a May election by chance, do they have to? Do they have people up?
I don't know if the school board members are up.
Right,
I'm not in tune
I
with
don't
that
know.
information.
then we would have to pay for the election. If the school is not putting one on, then we would have to also pay for the election
for May,
for May.
If we're the only ones that do
If
If
it,
we're the only
we're
one.
paying.
That's.
So that's why I think we really need to hear from schools. I don't know, when the board members rotate, I'll have to get that from her.
What's an
Okay.
election cost? 18,000?
Closer to 20 or 25.
I don't even know if we have a really good count anymore because now we have 9 days prior.
Oh, that's right. That's right. But will the state pay for the extra voting?
No,
They're reimbursed, the grant that we applied for is reimbursing us for this presidential primary.
Only.
And I don't even know if it's, I think they'll include a worker's wages if there's money left. But don't quote me on that.
Okay.
It's more or less they are giving us money to get the
Implement.
equipment,
To
because you
implement.
gotta have different poll books, different tabulators, you can't use the same. And then we're distributing the worker bill out to the townships based on the formula that she has in her plan.
Okay.
So, yeah, the townships would also, but does the townships really have to pay for a county?
Ballot item.
I think the county would have to be solely responsible if the school does not have anything on that.
That's what my thought process was July tax bills, August primary.
yeah, the August
August
primary,
election.
it's a state election, so the state covers a lot of the costs for the election. But
Well, and that would give us more opportunities over the summer with summer events to educate.
Your number of voters at those August are a lot higher than the other
absolutely.
elections.
Is that beginning of August, isn't it?
It's like the first week usually.
First Tuesday.
Well, even if that is the case, this committee could still plan for. Either way, we can plan for it doesn't pass, we can plan for it does pass, but we have to. Probably have to have a plan in place and let's hope it passes. So we don't have to go in the chopping area again.
And the other thing is if you're looking at Headley override, if you're looking at May election, because. Right now, the county has about 5 other millage elections that will be either on the August or November election. Ideally, you want them in the August election because then it's in place and you know what your funding is for next year on the rest of the departments, the rest of things.
Exactly.
Because those are also things that if they don't pass, are gonna impact and have cuts. So do you want 6 or 7 millages on the August primary?
No,
You know,
no,
people
no, no.
pay for police, fire, 911, those people are willing to pay for historically. They don't care about operation.
So you're saying May is our best bet?
I'm
believe
just
it is.
throwing out there with. There was talk a few years ago about staggering the county millages, and for whatever reason. We really did a poor job on that because everything's up for renewal this year,
Everything.
everything. And so every extra voted county millage is. Well. One could conceivably wait till 25, but it's gonna expire in 24, so the renewal will be this year, so that it doesn't cease, so you're. Yeah, it's gonna be. It's not just the Headley over operational millage, it's everything.
But can we afford to pay for an election and lose? Because now we just went backwards another $25,000.
Maybe.
And
Or we get
the
that,
commissioners would have to decide that, that's.
right? Or do,
We can make a recommendation, but I just wanted, those are things that. We need to bring up and the commissioners need to consider as they're making their decision on when to move forward with this. I don't know that into February, like I say, it's presidential primary, it's a little different. But it does not give us a lot of time, and we have a lot of people that are in Florida, Arizona for the winter that aren't here. You know, historically, millages do better when you have a low voter turnout. But that said, that may not be the case, and they have 9 days to vote, so they can do a lot of things absentee. We have record absentee ballots the last election cycles because they've just made such a push to make that a lot easier, so it's,
convenient.
well, it's just, you're getting a lot better turnout on voters, I mean. It's a lot easier for people to do an absentee, you don't need a reason, and a lot of people are, the permanent AV lists after COVID. I know our township, it's twice as many people, they don't ever come and poll now, we have, I think, almost the point where we have more people vote absent ballot than they do in person.
And now with the 9 days of voting, I mean, that's the whole point of this, right? We should see this huge increase of voter turnout.
You would
And
think.
if we don't, that's quite discouraging.
Mhm.
I just don't think there's gonna be a big influx of voting in those 9 days. I really don't.
I don't expect any more people to vote. I think it just will lessen how many people are walking through the township doors on election day.
think you're
change
right.
the
Yeah,
volume.
I agree.
I do.
I'm optimistic.
They opened up the absentee a couple years ago without having it, you used to have a medical or work excuse, but now that
Yeah.
they opened it up to everybody, my registered voters in my township more than doubled, or absentee more than doubled. But my total voter percentage was about the same.
Really?
People don't want to stand in line.
Yeah, time is money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I can make my
Mine is
decision. I vote
friends.
absentee. I do it at home, send it in. It's good, you know?
Yeah,
Time will tell. See,
so we wait and see what's happening with May and we decide then which ballot we're going to put this on.
Once we know if the school is going to.
May would be a good time, be an excellent time.
I'd be concerned about putting this up against the road patrol millage.
I understand, me too.
That would definitely be, I think, a lot more voter fatigue and to have the two of them pit on the same ballot.
I agree.
And the second thing that I see with this is if this passes, but the road patrol doesn't pass, then we're right back in the same boat of, okay, we got more revenue coming in kind of through this. It just replaces. Now you got to figure out what you're going to do.
To distribute.
Same type of thing. So I think these two have to go hand in hand in order to see the increase that,
You're right.
um,
The road patrol and this would both have to pass. Otherwise, we'll be right back in the same.
it'll be
boat.
right back in
Yeah.
the same boat, except the money be coming from a different source, not the road patrol and the Headley. So I mean,
Good point.
they kind of have to go hand in hand to make sure that we see the improvements or the changes that need to occur
That we can continue doing our services that.
across the
county-
board.
Yep, that this county now provides. Good point. Good point. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Booth?
Right, so we're gonna wait to see if the schools are gonna be on the May ballot.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're gonna follow that, Tom?
Follow.
I mean,
Yeah.
Tim, Tom and Tim, I get.
Wrong call.
mixed up.
Well, it's like looking in the mirror every time I see him.
Yeah, right. This is the older Tom, this is the young Tom. You're gonna follow that then to see if that school's gonna have a millage on the May ballot?
Right, I'm gonna be relying very heavily on the clerk's office. Let me know that.
Yeah.
They're gonna
Okay,
be
okay,
coordinating it all.
okay, Karen, you have some information that,
Well, I didn't do mine as a handout, sorry.
that's okay.
But I was asked to discuss where we're at with the accounts receivable for taxes, the tax reversion fund and the tax revolving fund. And I don't know, it looks like you have accounts receivable and outstanding property taxes, which is the same thing, but at the board meeting last night, I had distributed the September fiscal year end, unofficial, of course, until the audit's complete, but where we were at for cash for September 30th in our common cash account. And last year, our negative cash when we ended September 30th was in the $500,000 range. Right now it is 853,000 in the negative. So we increased approximately $300,000 further into the negative, which is not good.
Then after the 500,000 been put in there.
So last year you ended about $500,000 in the negative because I was repeatedly asking you to fund that with ARPA money and get us out of the negative, at least make us flush going forward. Well, now you're even further in the hole a year later, about $300,000. So negative cash situation is growing. The taxes receivable, which is the outstanding delinquent taxes that we have on our books. The old tax years from 2020 through 2010. And yeah, I said 2010 because there were years that previous administration was not enforcing the collection of delinquent taxes. When I took over the treasurer's office, we had several large outstanding balances on properties. One, for example, in the village of Prescott was nearly $50,000 because the taxpayer was not paying any taxes and nor was he being forced to pay them. And there was no consequence of foreclosure. That has all changed, but yes, I have taxes going all the way back to 2010. So from 2010 through 2022, our taxes receivable is 1.5 million. in outstanding delinquent taxes. And I can tell you right now, we did a mailing in September, the end of August, and usually that generates a large influx of phone calls and activity at our windows, and it did not. I think that is because of the economy, the inflation, and, you know, these households that are being hit so hard by that. When we do our tax settlement, the tax revolving fund loans the tax year that we're settling with money to pay out to the units to make them whole and for us to assume the role. And right now we have 2 tax years that are still owing from the current collection to the umbrella fund. And that's for years 2021 and 2022. And those tax years owe $3 million to the revolving fund. The 2021 tax year is about $537,000. The 2022 tax is $2.5 million that is owed back to the revolving fund. That being said, let me talk about where we are with cash. Your ARPA fund balance with cash and investments is 1.9 million. Your tax reversion fund, and when I say tax reversion fund, that is the fund that generates dollars based on the foreclosed property tax sales. Any excess tax sale proceeds above and beyond the delinquent tax goes into this fund. It is limited on what can be spent. It is only to be used for the tax foreclosure process. So anything for my office, staff, equipment, our software, very, very limited. That tax reversion fund balance with cash investments is $1,081,306. Delinquent tax revolving fund, cash and investments is 2.3 million. And that's for the older tax years. The tax umbrella funds, which are the current taxes I'm collecting years 2020, 21, and 2022 is 2.4 million. So tax years altogether, you're at 4.7 million cash. And those are the dollars that I have to use for staying self-funded, meaning paying out to all of the local units at settlement time. 4.7 million is what we have right now. I'm estimating my payout in mid-April for settlement to be about 3.5 million. So that leaves you about $1 million cushion, not including your ARPA that you have for spendable dollars.
Now, Karen, you said currently in the ARPA we're 1.9 million.
Yeah, for cash and.
Now, is there
cash and investments.
500,000 of that committed that's coming out? So I mean,
Mhm.
really realistically,
less
you're
than
looking at
that.
1.4 or 1.3, so.
Correct, plus whatever committed list you have. I'm not sure where we're at on, we haven't
It's
talked
not
about that
We've got
lately.
much less.
It's not.
Okay.
I mean, I don't.
So yes, because you've committed $500,000 in that for this year.
Right.
Budget. Mhm.
I think another thing a lot of people don't understand is when taxes aren't paid by individuals. That tax that was on their tax bill for Kirtland or Commission on Aging and stuff. We have to pay that
To
for
that.
them.
Yes.
So that comes out of the county. So that's more money that is coming out of our
Coffers.
taxes that we receive. Then even though it's not being received, we still have to pay it. And that's a lot of money that's out that we have to cover. So, and I think people do not understand that. Just because when people don't pay their taxes, it doesn't mean that, you know, people aren't gonna get their tax money. Kirtland's gonna get it and we have to pay it.
So for the 2024 budget year, they anticipated what they were taking out of that tax revolving fund was about 200,000 or 100,000.
I'm sorry, say that again.
What they transferred for the general fund from that tax revolving fund, how much was, I knew it when they had cut it from what they were doing previous years.
Yeah, so Tim had put us on a path to reduce the use of our tax revolving fund. In prior years, it was as high as $800,000.
Yeah.
Tim's had us on a strategic plan to wean us off of that. However, we've just been supplementing it with ARPA money. So realistically, we have not made a gain. You've just supplemented the source that you're pulling the money
But
from.
how much was
But
allocated
still,
out
how
of
much?
this year's budget?
I didn't,
For this
Bring
year,
that
for
with you,
24,
80.
it's 91,005, and this is the last year on that schedule that we would draw down from that fund for the general fund. So when 25 rolls around, it'll be zero.
So out of that $1.2 million surplus, it's conceivable there's $1.1 million there that could be allocated for
Right.
something else.
yes, because we're pulling the money from the reversion fund, the commissary fund, tax revolving fund, 10,000 out of your office from CPL fund.
So when that happens and we're not any longer pulling money from that fund, then where's the money coming from?
That's the point, and that's why we do budgets. And yeah, I mean, it's just one more hole to be plugged, but it's just one more factor that's gonna play into what we do for 25.
Yeah, but the problem is we don't have any money to plug it with.
And understand, I mean, this is just a decision that was made, 4 years ago, I tried to do the math. The board can say, well, we can't quite get there in 25, we'll only draw down this much or whatever. You still have that option, but we're really gonna try when we propose a budget to you to stick to that. This says, okay, 0, because we can't keep depleting that fund. It's not gonna itself be able to replenish. Moving forward, maybe not quite at the rate that we had in the past, but the obligation to the locals is still there. So, we've got to be very careful about that. I'm not saying just don't spend it, but I think if it is going to be spent, it probably should be earmarked for something that's a one-time cost. If we need a roof on a building, for instance.
Yeah, not an ongoing
That's it.
expenditure.
So you're not.
You're talking about the ARPA money.
All of it.
If we had to use tax component, some of that would benefit us for years, like we talked about with the consumer stuff, with doing work to the building where we're years. This is just so absolutely alarming to me. I mean, we're talking, Karen's very, very clear to us that we're already seeing a large increase of people above and beyond from the years past not paying
Not
taxes.
paying.
Our negative cash flow has gone up another $300,000.
You do not have a good financial
This
situation
is,
here.
excuse my language, this is really fucking bad.
Yes, it is.
Excuse me, you are.
I excuse my language.
I think that's part of the education process too, when
But
we
this
talk
is
about
why,
the other
this
things.
is why I said this is the worst I've ever seen it in all of my years working. It's never been this bad. Never have we been this close to risking not being able to be self-funded anymore.
But there are some other things that aren't being done, like, through putting this committee together, things that I have learned is that, when we did payroll this time, there was an error made. And I don't know, past practice.
Let me elaborate on that
Let
for
me,
just a second.
let me say before you elaborate, so they know what you're talking about.
Okay,
Is that payroll went out this time and all the work days on that payroll were done in September. And the raises weren't supposed to be given until October 1st. So the paycheck they received, October 5th had September days on it with that pay raise on it.
When is it put in the books? So my take on it is this money is gonna be put on the 2024 budget year, not the 2023 budget year. You're not gonna back these out at the audit. It was due and payable after October 1st, so it's 2024 expense.
so may I speak?
It's my take on it. It's not a 2023
Not according to
expense.
union contract, it's not like that.
Yes,
You may speak now.
thank you. So, I did payroll here for 17 years. When I came on as the payroll clerk in the county clerk's office, I was taught to process that first payroll of the year with pay raises on it because that is how it was budgeted. And I recall saying, we don't have to separate out prior, pay old wages for earned in September and new wages for earned in October. And I was told, no, you pay everything at the new rate because that is how it was budgeted. It has been processed that way prior to my time and through my time, and it was never questioned. So I understand now it's been brought to the attention that the contracts have wording in it for either the first pay or October 1st, but historically, before my time, it was never done that way. So I don't want to.
Last year it wasn't done. All the employees in my office pulled out their pay stubs, had them laying out on their desks.
Yeah, I'd like just to make a comment, because I've had some discrepancies of this, and obviously this is a very important matter. I actually, over the night, received a text message of an employee that showed me apples for apples, that this is not a common thing. So we need to figure out what's going on here.
Well, I
And
did send an email.
I don't want to be here
showing
once
back
another
to
week to figure out what's
2014.
happening.
Well, I haven't done it in 3 years. So, we have had a change. We had a change in software. We had a change in personnel. We have new contracts, so.
I can look at last year's, I do, because our software now has the capability of doing it. Hanem did not. But I sent the commissioners and Tim an email this morning. I went back to 2014 and it shows every year the new wage is the very first paid check in October. Some days that it was October 6th, some days it was October 11th, but it was still the full raise.
Even last year's.
Last year's I'll have to go look because our software did have the capability. I thought we'd always done it that way, but if I did it last year, then it was because the software would do it. But I'll have to go look. I just know that it's always been in the past. My notes have said that.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
in the future,
Mhm.
we need to make that a correction.
Right.
You know,
And
because I mean, if I were running a business and the pay raise started October 1st, I certainly wouldn't give it to people that work from September to this to September 30th.
And
The
it's,
pay
un-
raise until,
it's also unusual for the entire pay period to be earned in September and paid in October. That's an unusual.
I know, but
event in
still,
itself.
whatever they work in September should be under the old wage. And whatever they work in October should be under pay raise.
Okay, then we
That-
can make that very clear in the union contracts and for the payroll person.
Well, to me, it was
processing
kind of, it was. To me, it's like the pay raise will be implemented October 1st. That means October 1st, you start getting that pay raise. But that doesn't mean,
it. But if your payroll clerk doesn't know that, and it has never been questioned,
I'd like to say
we
something.
we definitely.
Go ahead,
We
Tom.
definitely need to make all parties clear in what's happening.
I know there's some inconsistencies because I looked at mine and it's been October 1st and I understand that the courts were not, but regardless, you're not saving any money. You're just changing when you're getting it is all you're doing. If you change it to where they get it October 1st they don't get it on the first pay of October next year, it's just changing the week that you're doing it. You're not saving any money. They're still getting the raise. You're just moving it up 2 weeks.
yeah, well, that's 2 weeks worth of raise that we're paying for that they,
Into the New Year's budget.
Right.
Which you've.
But
budgeted
next
for.
year, you're not saving any money by delaying it 2 weeks,
When you
because
do that,
next
would
year,
you Separate out September wages to October
I
wages.
started October 1 through September 30th. That was
So
my.
26 pays at the new
26
pay rate.
pays, yeah.
So
well,
there you go. 26 pays at the new pay rate is what she's processing.
Right, now, did you say that this won't be booked back to 23? Because it was earned in 23.
It does get booked.
It did get booked back.
Okay, so there's the rub, 23 is what's gonna feel the impact of this. And it's common in the union contracts and common practice, at least where I've worked in the past, that if we say raises begin October 1, that's when they start. And that means splitting a pay period up or having to go through counting gymnastics to make sure the money lands where it belongs. That's what we do. The contracts are pretty boilerplate in terms of how they state. This will begin on October 1, 23, and it'll issue a table. But now in our case, because we've been doing it a different way for so long, we can't just abruptly say this is how we're going to do it moving forward without calling the unions to the table and bargaining over that, because it's a mandatory subject of bargaining. And what motivation does the union have to say, yeah, we'll wait 2 weeks?
none.
I mean, there isn't, and if they don't agree to it,
Well, last
we're
year,
caught.
it wasn't done that.
So, well, I can't speak to all that history. And in fact, that came up last night and this should have been caught and so on. I don't know. When these things pop up, that's when we find out about them.
It's the
But
simple,
this being said,
tell your payroll clerk.
it's
what to
on our
do.
list now
Yes.
for discussion with the unions for next year. And we'll make it absolutely clear when we have the language in there. These pay raises start on October 1, not before. And this is when they'll take place. But because we have the past practice, going back at least 17 years, to
Before
just
that,
stop
Tim,
it. Well, even
it was
before that,
before
but we know for sure 17, but a couple decades. You can't just stop doing it without getting into trouble with your bargaining units. And you will lose the grievance, I guarantee it.
or just doing past practice the wrong way, that means it's okay.
No, absolutely. not.
Unfortunately, in the eyes of an arbitrator, you're right.
Well, it wasn't. but-
Even my military retirement paycheck, the one I get in January is less than the one I get in February. Because they allocate that difference between December and when I get my pay in January, and there is a difference.
So it's simple. Sit your union leadership down, come to an agreement, and tell her what to do. It's that
And
easy.
all the contracts are on the table next year, so by the time 25 rolls around,
But
we're here.
I don't know of any business that would,
The
give
rules
you a-
are different in the public sector, whether we like it or not. And that's just how it is.
Mhm.
Daniel, were you gonna say something?
My point is, there wasn't a grievance filed last year, was there?
No. No,
So.
and people have showed their
And
page.
I'm not placing blame on anyone. I'm not pointing fingers.
but let's fix it.
And-
Sit your
and
union down
transparency,
and tell her what to
And
do.
transparency, honesty, right? So if someone brought something to my attention that I am ultimately responsible for, before I make a statement that this is years and years of past practice, I'm going to look at my records. And I'm going to ensure that what I'm saying is factual. That is where we have an issue. To, I guess, use scare tactics that you're going to have grievances filed, when last year you did it different than you did it this year. There were no grievances filed. Right? Follow what I'm
I
saying?
take exception to the term scare tactics. I'm just telling you how it is. In my experience, this is what the future looks like if you take this action. Okay, not a scare tactic, just be prepared.
But it
If you want to
didn't,
take the action, understand that you're going to be out of pocket for an arbitrator's fee too, okay?
Let's
We're
fix
very,
it.
it's now on our schedule, definitely on the radar. It's on my list of issues to share with the board when we deal with our bargaining this coming year. And, you know, it's as good as I can do at this point. But it's just like any other thing that we've tripped over here in the last several years, is as soon as we find out about it, we schedule it to be fixed. And it's just what we're gonna have to continue to do.
well, I know I would have never run a business like that if I had one. I'm sure businesses downtown don't. And I don't care if you're municipal or what you are. Get your pay raise when it's October 1st was pay raise day. It didn't happen the last 2 weeks of September.
So
Just
set your
because-
parties down, come to an agreement and tell her what to do. Easy, easy fix. Right?
No, it just seems interesting that it didn't happen last year, but it happened this year.
Brenda,
That's
do
all
you-
I'll drop it.
Do you know how many things in the treasurer's office that I have found?
Keep writing notes.
So if the clerk's office had something wrong, the best you can do is fix it going forward. It's what I've been doing for the solid 3 years I've been in my new seat, right? You fix it and you move forward.
I
And
mean,
there's also some things that have been found, like with, it's a zoning, Mr. Reader's zoning, right? He's now collecting fees that he even knows he's entitled to. And that came
Oh.
through
Yeah.
the courts,
Mhm.
so,
I mean, there's a whole
And there's-
plethora that has been discovered in the courts, let's be honest. I mean, that's,
and
hello.
do you have any idea when that,
We're moving forward, yeah.
Right.
Sim- and
That's
do you have
what-
any-
Acknowledge that mistakes happen.
Yeah.
You
and I understand that,
identify, right? You identify what the problems are. You come up with a solution and how to rectify those problems, and then you implement policies to ensure that those same mistakes won't happen again to the
Yeah.
best of your ability.
and
It's
we,
the only thing you can do.
and we hold the key players, the stakeholders accountable that, you know, we found that there's a problem. We're discussing it, we're gonna fix it, and it's not gonna be a problem again. And we know that we have a lot of these issues, but again, we have to look back and figure out why. And we need to come together, we need to stay united, fix the problem, move forward and just get better. And at the end of the day, I think this is also a campaign of everything going on in these job cuts is our stakeholders, our people in charge need to realize that this is a business
Mhm.
and they need to take their job more seriously as a business.
I
I've been here
think-
for 9 months and I am extremely disappointed to see some of our leaders who just come in and do a job. This is what they've been doing. This is how it's been. No, that's why we're at the financial position we're in. We are leaders and a leader has to be business minded,
Mhm.
has to be strong, has to work with others.
Mhm.
And we're lacking that across the whole board.
Mhm.
And it's time for change. It's got to happen now. We have no more time left.
Mhm.
and that's why I put this committee together, so everybody could look at the whole budget and not just their single piece of the budget. And I think that is so important.
Yep.
Well, and a
To
big
make-
part of this too is because we didn't have a Tim. We didn't have an administrator. You had just people that were elected and doing their job or not doing their job, because some of them weren't doing their job.
You, us and the clerk.
So you have new
Okay.
people in place. You have new people that are taking their jobs seriously.
I agree.
I'm not sleeping at my desk. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not sleeping at my desk like the previous administration. So you do have new leadership who are taking their roles very seriously, are dedicated to doing the best job for this community and providing the best service to the public that we can. Change is happening. I hope you see that.
Oh, I
I hope
definitely
you
am.
see it.
Right, there are people that are doing their job, but we all know there are people that also are not doing their job and they're not coming here with a business mind. I think that's pretty clear. If you take a little bit of time and talk to some people and see it, it's not that hard. But I'm saying there's still a lot of people that are doing their job.
More changes
But we
needed.
need to be united. We need to be consistent.
Lead by example.
Yes.
So and there's, do we charge at the jail inmates to pay their fees at the jail for staying with us? Like our motel, like the Brian Gilbert Motel, are we?
We're gonna start, right? Isn't that what I've been told, that we're gonna start?
I don't. Isn't there a small fee? There's a small
No.
fee. No, there isn't
I
currently.
just started. Mr. Howard paid me a visit a couple weeks ago. Because the courts, by statute, have the authority to order individuals who, it's a caveat, only if they are placed on probation at sentencing. And sentenced to jail time, can be ordered to pay costs of confinement as a reimbursement to their room and board fee at the jail. So this was happening. Unbeknownst to the courts, our Ogemaw County Jail doesn't charge a room and board fee. So what we discovered is only individuals that were sentenced out of district court and placed on probation were paying to sleep on the cot for their days in jail, but any other individual was not being charged.
Yeah,
We obviously pulled that back until you guys begin charging people, because that's unjust. But it can easily be put back into place once that's started.
And I'd like to add to that, that just got brought to my attention and I asked Tim to send an email and Danielle, you received, I think yesterday or the day before. She also, Danielle, is part of Roscommon County where they charge their inmates. I don't know how many other counties charge their inmates. I need to educate myself on that, but I would imagine probably most of them. But Danielle is gonna give us an idea, some numbers of what Roscommon made just in the last year off of charging their inmates.
I think Escota County charges their inmates. The collection is problematic because some of the people that are in jail don't work.
Sure.
I mean, there's collection issues with it,
But here's
but they've charged for years.
here's the key piece to it though, is individuals that don't pay, right? And they have their back bill at the jail. You tend to see them again at some point. By statute, the jail is allowed to withhold 50% of any funds placed into the commissary account at any time. Frequently, more than once, until that bill is paid off. 100% for any medical reimbursement that the jail has had to pay in past visits to the jail. So that's how you collect your fees. You don't need to send it to a collection agency. Another thing that's been used in many jails is when an individual wants to go out on a medical tether. But they have a past jail bill. Caveat is that you don't get your medical tether until your past jail bill is paid off. And a lot of people come up with money, thousands of dollars, if that means they can get out on a tether to pay off that back debt with the jail. So, I mean, we're talking prior to the 2021 jail reform, Roscommon County brought in $450, close to $500,000 a year. Just on room and board, MDOC diversion reimbursements, $500,000. Now, because, there has been substantial change in sentencing guidelines in the state of Michigan, it's looking more like it'll be 250. But still, $250,000.
That'd be 3 or 4 prison.
That we're not
cases.
getting.
Mm. 3 deputies.
Yeah. You have an ATM in the lobby.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where the money gets deposited, so
I mean,
for the accounts, it's not a withdrawal, it's an accept money in.
I mean, again, it's like we're talking about with anything, you know, we're bringing up the issues. Figuring out, you know, why the issues happened. How we're gonna fix them. It's very, very frustrating to just hear what Danielle said. And then to see the position that we're in. And we haven't done anything. It blows my mind.
Those things that we've discussed today, till I started putting this, I wasn't even aware of. And that's why I think I'm glad we're all here to come up with issues that are, so they can be corrected. And we don't lose money in the future where we should be having some revenue come in.
Well, on that topic, you know, there is a Detroit councilwoman and a real estate agent out of Grand Rapids who have partnered together to create a ballot proposal for November of 2024 to eliminate real and personal property taxes in the state of Michigan.
I know that.
So Randy and I are keeping our ear to the ground on how this is going to progress. If their initiative will collect enough ballots, they need 447,000 signatures to get this ballot proposal on the
Did
ballot.
they get approved for circulation?
I
Yeah.
I have not heard yet.
They're having a hearing like this week.
Yes.
I have a equalization directors meeting next Friday, and that's gonna be the topic of discussion. They had met with this group a couple months ago when they were first starting everything, and they had talked about it, and so now that it looks like they may actually be able to start the ballot drive, they're gonna kind of talk about it because again, there's gonna have to be campaigns from the local municipalities saying,
Right.
you know, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna have no services because they're gonna cut out all sheriff's departments. You're gonna have state police governed because the state's not got enough money to pay for sheriff departments. Any of the services county provides or townships will be gone. We're dependent on tax. revenues.
October 20th, the State Board of Canvassers.
There's a lot of people have no clue. And you know, well, I'm not gonna have any taxes. They don't care. They don't realize the services till they don't have them.
Right.
And another option may be, if the state does do this, your sales tax and all this stuff would be astronomical. I mean, you could go buy a car.
Part of this plan.
Sales tax is gonna be 25%.
Part of the plan is they cannot increase additional state revenues. The state of Michigan will have to provide all services for the residents through the existing tax structure.
Well,
Minus.
might as well.
That's,
Because we won't be able to pay the election.
I'm telling you, that's the ballot proposal. They cannot increase their taxes to cover these costs.
Right. So October 20th, the State Board of Canvassers was supposed to be considering the wording.
They've got a really nice website. Look it up. And it'll tell you the stats on how Michigan's one of the highest. They collect more taxes than all these states. Michigan's budget is higher than, I forget how many countries.
Well, we visited some of those states and some of those countries.
Yeah, I'm not going to those countries. But my point is, there's a lot of people are gonna look at that and say, it's a very nice website
Yeah.
documenting their position. And so all municipalities are gonna have to explain to people, look, this is a horrible idea. But
Well, maybe if that's the case, then it's different countries, the people that are proposing that should go to those countries and live. Look at the money they'd save.
Well, let's hope it doesn't gain any traction.
They met on October 20th. I'm surprised there hasn't been more
I haven't heard
publicity about it.
anything more this week.
I mean, I would have expected Mac to put out an alert.
Yeah, you sure would think so.
Well, if this passes and they can't raise any states can't raise any taxes, then there will not be any.
this
Services
comes
to the
from one of the
level.
directors, it's our MAC representative. So, I mean, MAC's fully aware. I don't know why they're not sending out to everybody, but they're, like I say, they're going to. One of the equalization directors was invited to early meetings with these people to discuss it and how it would work and all of that. And, anyhow, at the time, his report was, he just thought too much of craziness, but, they're gaining momentum. And so it may be something we have to deal with.
Well,
Hmm.
they'll find out what happens. One, there won't be anybody to record the property and there won't be anybody to do.
Well, there'll be no education, there'll be no first
Schools will be
response.
closed.
It's
So that-
collapse.
Through MAC that they increase the transcript fees, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So I hope people understand where this would lead us. Everybody get your shotgun ready, make sure it's fully loaded. Because it would be bad.
Well, I'm sure everyone in the education system would be in opposition to this. All of the first response teams will be in opposition, so they will have a
All
full task
municipalities.
force to get through
Yeah,
before this gets on a ballot.
I think municipalities would be totally against it because they wouldn't be able to survive.
Just
Right,
a-
yeah,
just a-
every one of them.
Complete waste of time and energy that we have to sit here even talk about something like this.
I
It'd
agree.
be just a complete collapse of our entire state of Michigan. It's
Yeah,
Mhm.
just so incredibly dumb.
okay, now. We're on to accounts payable.
Brenda, did you want me to mention this budget class?
Oh, yeah, yep. Sorry.
Through ICMA, they're offering a budgeting skills class for local government workers. If anyone is interested to learn more about the budget process. The cost for non-members, which were not a member of ICMA, $695.
Here's the good news. I am a member of CMA.
Yay, that just dropped it to $395. $395, and then if you remember, the materials for the course is $65.95. But for the new people to budgeting, this might be a good course for you to take.
So does that mean we can watch?
Well, that's what we do. We set
I
it
have
up
the-
so that you can see it on the big screen and we don't have to have our own materials probably to. Participate, but usually they have a group rate too.
It's
so,
3 Zooms,
Okay.
October, November, and 2 dates in November for an hour and a half.
That's-
So you'd have 3 classes.
So, and how much is it if you are a member?
$395, plus the materials are $65.95.
Oh, shit, it's soon.
It's by Zoom.
Yeah,
3
October
classes.
31st.
Next week.
Mhm.
so. I would like to have this class, if it's gonna make me any smarter than I am now.
I
So
will register for it this afternoon and we should be able to just broadcast it on the big screen. Absolutely.
yes, so that we could all take it if need be, and just order the
I
materials.
want to make sure, yeah, that I look at the details and what are the materials and can we duplicate them? And it'd
Mhm.
be cool if we could just get it with one, registration.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
You'll check into that, because I would do it also.
Probably.
If it wasn't gonna cost us anything, I will do it.
Well, what I'd like to do is set it up just like this, one at this table, we'll be able to see the screen.
It's an hour and a half class, 3 dates by Zoom.
So I have to look at the dates and make sure I don't have conflicts, but yeah,
I think it's the 31st, the 7th, and the 14th, I believe.
you're correct.
Right.
Any comments about the class?
Tim's gonna look into it.
Yeah, I'll sign us up and
Okay,
if anybody's available.
I'm available.
Even if you can only make 1 or 2 of them, it's probably worth it.
It should be beneficial for our committee.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, for the MERS monthly payment, I'm assuming you're going to be talking about DB. So DB is an old animal that, long before I was here, so all I really deal with now is making the payment for that. Karen probably can elaborate more on how it was set up, but there's no new employees that go on DB. That is
And
all
By DB, because some people don't know even what you're saying.
MERS defined benefit the defined benefit. The new MERS is just a match. We pay the bill and it's out and we don't have any liability. This is a liability that we will have until the very last person that retires from here's beneficiary dies. I mean, we're gonna be paying this
Legacy
until
cost.
till the end. So what I do for MERS DB is I enter the payroll for the people that are actively working. I go in at the end of the month, enter their payroll, their contribution, send it to MERS. MERS sends me a an invoice. They have it classified based on where all those people were classified when they were set up. None of this is changes. They send me a bill. We have a spreadsheet that the accountants drafted, I think in 19. The accountants must have taken all of the past previous people. We base it on a 10-year wage. So there's a spreadsheet that goes 10 years back. October every year, I move 9 years over and enter the new wages for the people that are contributing now. So that's the bill is like $153,000. The employees withholding the 5.5% that they withhold, except for the command of 7.5, is about $6,000, I think, a month. So we are putting out $140,000 to this bill every month. And it's calculated on a spreadsheet, and that's how it gets. I'm assuming this is what you're asking me, Brenda. I don't know what you want
Yeah,
to talk
yeah.
about on that.
I'll go over this with
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
So
Again, it was explained to me yesterday I went to the auditors yesterday and got a copy of the spreadsheet, and it was explained to me, and I got all the writing on the back. And I will explain this spreadsheet because
That's great, but I just wanted to know what employees from the district court were.
I have all the names, right? I have all the names. I got everything from MERS. I got everything yesterday.
Pay on retirees.
Yes,
So like is my office, because I see it's a pretty big number, and Joanne's got defined benefit, but I know Jim Oswald retired.
John
So
Orley,
does it include, and John passed away, so I don't know if his.
it will include his beneficiary in
Okay.
that. and
That's what I'm
under
saying. It
Liability.
depends on what plan the employee
Right.
selects when they retire. They
Okay.
can select to take a higher amount themselves and nothing goes to their beneficiary. They can select
50%,
yeah, like a 50,
75%.
like, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know
John was
this.
already retired when he got married, but that's just wondering.
I have a question.
So
to
if
ask.
his daughter was the beneficiary, I'm not saying she is, but if she were, it's an ongoing legacy
Mhm.
cost to our plan.
Till-
Yeah.
Till they die, I believe, or a submit, one of them might be a submit, term, like so many years. Again, it was all in place long before I
I
came
I
along,
was just curious.
the only
It's a
thing
big
I-
amount of my budget, I have no idea.
right?
But like Pete Henner invested in this, but he's not drawing yet.
So they're deferred employees.
Yes, and that's also in this
Yeah.
spreadsheet I've
You
got.
have your retirees, beneficiaries,
Mhm,
active employees, and then your deferred, people that aren't drawing yet, but are. no
Yes.
longer.
mhm.
So all this information goes to MERS, they hand it off to an actuary who
Yeah.
says, okay, here's the mortality table, we expect people are gonna live this
Okay.
long. Here's what we think their pay increases are gonna be, here's what we think the rate of return on the investment is gonna be, in your county is your bill.
With 3 different scenarios
Yeah.
for market. Mhm.
And that changes, I mean, they'll do another actuary this year and they'll give us another number and they'll
Yeah, got it.
typically go down.
You have a copy of that?
But, you know, what Tracy said is the word to keep in mind, it's a legacy cost. It's gonna be there for a long time.
Long time.
We got some people who are in their 40s.
And it's also
Or
monitored by the
it-
state.
Right.
There are
right.
state reporting requirements because they keep an eye on the funding levels for the defined benefit plan
And we're at 80% right now, right?
overall.
Yeah,
If you combine all of our plans.
yeah,
Yes,
that's what I'm talking about.
yes, it's in a good shape, but
So we are in
it's
good
not a
shape.
cost that you can just say, yeah, we're not paying that this year.
No, we can't do that.
You have to pay this and the state monitors it. We are required to report to the state every year. So they actually put the figures we need for the state report in this, the very last page of this.
So my understanding how they did was, they put all the people that are making wages, and they're also putting, in here, people who are retired they have this like Mr. Clacking, Mr. Hampton. And, they get the sheriff's department command group listed separately.
Different
And,
divisions.
yeah, oh, and I have another comment too. And, then they spread it out to what percentage of this 153,000.
That each of those people make up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so,
The good
and then they
news
divide it
is-
by that, and I'll show you the whole spreadsheet.
The good news is that after the market crashed in 2008, obviously, everybody's investments were hit,
Whoa,
including
I
these
know.
retirement plans.
Mine
So what they
half.
did was they created a smoothing period, so you weren't hit upfront with those costs. And we're at the tail end of that smoothing. So
Yep.
we will see some relief to this
Yes,
soon. We were hoping we could bond it out and see that
Oh,
sooner. That didn't come to
What type
fruition,
of relief?
but-
How big?
know if that
Actually, I'd have
projection's
to
in
pull
here.
the Actuarial, if there's a graph in
Yeah,
there that
I-
tells us, but 26, it really starts to drop.
Right.
But like,
26.
yeah, pretty
Yes.
sure that.
So you'll see it drop a little bit in 26, but it's really gonna taper down in early
Oh,
2030s.
So that's where we're coming from. Go up a tad bit, but it's still under where we are here, and then what is that?
Yeah, you're gonna really see.
30.
Wow.
Mhm,
Yeah, then it really starts to drop, but that's your mortality table kicking in
Yeah,
too.
yeah, true.
mhm.
And I think that's probably off. Of course, you understand the further we get this way, the less reliable that trend
Definitely.
is.
Mhm.
But it's given the age of some of our current employees who are on deep. Easily 50 years.
No,
Are you keeping the command unit open? Are you? trying to
No,
close that?
I'm
You're gonna
actually
close it?
gonna have
Okay.
we're gonna have a closed session with the board, probably at the committee of the whole. We're gonna talk about that because there's a few moving parts in there that we need to fix.
Next week, right?
well, next week, no one will be here.
I won't be here next week.
You won't be here.
I'm missing something.
Jenny said she won't be here at the next meeting, but
And neither
Why
will
won't I be here? I've never missed
Roger
a
was
meeting
going to
yet.
Wyoming next week.
Roger's going too.
Rogers, we
He
in?
leaves Monday.
Wait, there's gonna be 3 gone.
Who's the third?
You and
There's Jenny, there's Roger.
you just thought that I was leaving, but I'm not. So there's 3 of us.
All right,
Anyway, we'll get into the details. There's a few things that we need to do with that division to bring it to accuracy.
who sits next to Jenny?
Breck. Breck and Roger.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I thought it was 3 that were gonna be gone.
So I think this conversation right here is the exact reason why fine benefits are / pensions are
A thing
a
of the
thing of the
past.
past.
Mhm.
That's what me and.
And yeah, and just
Yes.
throw a flag up on that. One of the big points that the UAW wants from the we call it, can't call them big 3 anymore, but what they're after is a return to this. And if they get it, you're gonna start seeing pressure from at the bargaining table to bring it back. But because we have to account for it the way we are, I think it's gonna be tough for them to tell us that with a straight face, but just in the future, you know, you might be hearing about it.
That's true.
And a push to bring it back. So anyway, it's good that we have these graphs like that, so we can even show the unions. How many members do you want to lose? Because that's what it's gonna take to make it happen. But I wouldn't be surprised, you know, we start seeing
I'll see you after the meeting.
I'll say that for hiring tactics, we all approved in Roscommon County for the prosecutor's office. We had a complete shift. Obviously, Judge Beebe was elected as judge. The assistant prosecutor moved down to front of the court, became the front of the court referee. So they had 3 open prosecutor positions. And obviously, we're in a climate where indigent defense counsel make substantially more than a prosecutor. So the only selling point that the county could come to the table, I mean, they couldn't match salary levels, was to open up a hybrid. MERS, like, a lot of people that are, you know, whether they're mid-level of their law career, that seems really tempting to them, you know, they put in 15 and 20 years or whatever in the county, and then they would have, so those are things too, always, obviously, public service isn't the place that people go to become rich, right? But it's the benefit.
Not in Ogemaw County, it's not.
So to, you know, I think it would be great that, that board commissioners get involved when the actuaries prepare, so that they, when they do the presentation for you, Tim, that they get, you know, educated on it too, where you got what this looks like, where it's going, what we're foreseeing. And then open up those conversations when you struggle with.
You want to do that anyway, just for the education aspect,
just
so that you can hear directly from the actuary, some of the things they consider. It is, you know, maybe not normal about this. To me, it's pretty intriguing. It's riveting to hear you know, how they go about this. Hybrid is definitely something that MERS still offers too. So, I mean, there are downsides to that as well. But, you know, the point being with the hybrid, it's not a full DB, but the selling point is if you invest in this, when you retire, it's going to be there. You know, you don't have to worry about running out of money on a DC plan. The DB will be there. So, yeah, it's-
Something to help draw in talent.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think without it, you won't draw anybody.
Well, especially the office. You're going to see that
Especially.
in the future.
And, you know, we've got the state as another player in this that's telling, they're, you know, we're gonna give you these indigent defense contracts and pretty substantial money, but you've got to follow our rules, and here's what your pay scales are gonna be. And that's really putting prosecutors behind the eight ball. Because now you can't compete. You've got within your organization a competing department, you know, drawing the talent. Okay, just one more
And with
thing.
this indigent council thing, I think, well, on appeals and stuff, it's making everybody a lot busier too. With dealing with all
And-
that.
And it's great for
and-
justice, don't get me wrong, but it's just that I don't think it was completely thought through when they said, okay,
I
this is
agree,
how we're gonna approach it.
because now, I mean, these indigent counselors are making
Well, it
a lot of
created,
money.
it created inflation within the self, you know, the
Yes.
retained world as well.
Yes,
On a court appointed scale, they're getting paid X amount of dollars an hour. To retain an attorney, they're doubling that, you know?
yeah. Exactly.
On those lines, there is discussion, serious discussion about making our indigent contract, making us form a department that is like a public defender's office. Now, in Chippewa County, we did that, and it's all well and good. I just kind of bristle that the state's gonna tell us, now you have to create another department. And what does that mean? Well, they're gonna want, you know, collective bargaining and, you know, another union contract to negotiate, and we're gonna have the state rules to make sure that we comply with. And yeah, it's just one more thing, you know, right, that gets tossed on the pile. But I really think that's in our future, probably within the next 5 years. I think they'll do it. It might be sooner. There just seemed to be some momentum earlier this year. I haven't heard much more about it.
And they're creating multi-county, you know, obviously in northern Michigan, we don't, first of all, there's not enough attorneys. But Scota County,
Regionals.
essentially, I mean, whether you do it within your court structure, I mean, like here would be Ogemaw, Roscommon County. I don't even know if you would have enough between those two counties to have attorneys full-time working, you know, in a public defender's office. Because right now, it's hard enough for our local attorneys between both counties. I mean, we sometimes pull somebody from Alpena to cover Ogemaw County and Roscommon County when our local attorneys between the two counties can't. And they still have their own retained clients, you know what I mean? So yeah, like you're gonna see more and more in the northern areas where it's multiple counties all going in on a public defender's office because we just don't have the financial backing talent. I shouldn't say talent, but you know, local attorneys to make that up. They're gonna have to be pooled from many areas.
Probably because the wages of northern Michigan aren't nearly as profitable as those in southern Michigan either. So I mean, everything costs a lot more.
Well,
in southern
in the city,
Michigan.
you have attorneys that just do criminal defense work. You have attorneys that just do divorce cases. You have attorneys, I mean, here, you have to.
They're general practitioners.
Yeah, if you want to eat, you have to.
Yeah. So, good point, yeah. Where am I on this? I was on agenda thing.
Right, claims, just gonna touch on it. So I do the claims entry. I don't do the Tuesday, Thursday. So what I do is the other accounts payable clerk would normally do the Tuesday, Thursday. Those are in and out accounts. Those are utility bills and restitution, anything that doesn't need board approval type thing. The utility bills get reported on the claims as a prepay.
Yes, they do.
And any bill that should get issued on a Tuesday, Thursday needs to go on the prepay listing on those cover sheets. Just want to make sure. So I was just getting our accounts payable girl into looking at things, making sure things were coded right before they get to me, because they get turned in on Tuesday. I start entering on Wednesday afternoon, and it takes me a good 2 days to do that. We are now scanning. Tom timed it when we first got this thing. I said, look how much longer it's taking me to enter one invoice. Literally, it's a It's a whole process. It's like 4 extra, okay, scan, okay. And so now I've turned on this function that we have for if you're over budget, which is great, tells me that you're over budget. By the time it gets to me, I'm already entering claims and I have to just get a hold of the department head and say, hey, you're over budget. But without doing budget adjustments once a quarter, this comes on every single time I try to charge something to that budget. Jail food, for instance, every single invoice stops me for at least an extra 30 seconds to 45 seconds, an invoice, because I have to say, okay, scan it, enter it, and then I try to save it, and it gives me another warning. This is over budget. Okay. I know that. So the problem with that reminder is that it slows me down tremendously. If we're only gonna do budget adjustments once every quarter, it's not ever gonna get taken care of.
Tracy, just thinking out loud, we don't adopt a line item budget. We show line items, but we're actually.
But the
adopted by
software
activity.
does it line by line.
So it won't do it by the bottom line? Oh, geez.
So, and yes, it's kind of a good thing, but it's also very whatever. So I'm hoping that the department heads are keeping an eye on their budget. Some do, some don't. I think that's something that maybe we needed to go in depth a little bit more with each department head. I don't change a lot of codings. If I get a bill that says from West Branch Automotive for windshield wiper blades and I see it's charged to office supplies, okay, that will red flag me and yes, I will move it to auto parts or,
Right.
Otherwise, I don't change people's codings. I'm relying on department heads to turn those into me. I don't want to keep manipulating those cover sheets that you guys are looking at. It's just confusing.
Yep,
There's times where I have to add things because they forget.
yep,
You'll see me adding a few bills that we
Yep.
get in late
yep.
that wasn't distributed to them. But otherwise, for claims, I really do rely on the department heads to put them, they know their budget. They're the ones that submitted it to Tim. They know if they charge this bill to, they might expect to have like a $3,000, I don't know, software bill. They know where they put it in their line item. I don't do their individual budget. So for the most part, I watch it, I get the notification. If I know something's over budget, I'll let them know. But until budget adjustments are made, I can't, I'm not gonna do it every single claims. We're gonna try. I was just getting the other girl, it's probably gonna take a year and a half to get the new one. Cause she doesn't know chart of accounts. Government chart of accounts is difficult. And if you don't come from a government accounting background, you don't know it. So I'm gonna try to get her to try to look at some of that stuff before she gives them to me, because it's a check and balance process. She's gonna prepare that cover sheet that you guys look at, that with the whole total, it's got everybody's,
Yep,
prepaid,
yes.
paid
Yep.
total. She prepares that, gives me the invoices, I enter the invoices, and then I have to balance to her. If I don't balance to her, then we have to figure out who's wrong, who missed something. I mean, it's not all on me. I mean, there's a checks and balance so that we.
Right, I understand that.
So that's all I'm gonna say about claims. I would like, department heads to really pay attention to their budget. Some look at it very closely and some don't. So that's all I'm gonna say about claims. That's how it works. I don't know if everybody knows how it works. They're due on Tuesday so that we can prepare that sheet and they can get turned into me so I can start entering them. So
when would you like to have claims finished by the commissioners?
So when you guys have a Thursday morning meeting and you guys approve bills, there's people that want their checks back and they want to distribute them on their own, whatever. It takes us a good half day to, staple the stubs and get them ready to mail. And so I usually will run checks on Wednesday afternoon.
So you want them.
And
no
then I
later than
hold them until
Tuesday.
you guys, and I hold them until you guys approve them. If you say pull one, then we just pull the check and void it. So
So Tuesday would be the
Tuesday
best.
would be the best to have, and you guys have been doing pretty good about it for the most part. There's been a few occasions. Now, we've got holidays coming up. I think there's a Tuesday commissioner meeting. So that's gonna put a little on claims because we have to have them done. We'll have them out on Wednesday. They're just, the departments will have to wait until Wednesday to get them. I
So
won't
then
print
we
them. I
should have
won't
them
print
done
them
by
until,
Monday night.
well, yeah, you'll have to have them before you do your meeting because you'll have to know that you reviewed them.
Okay,
So, I
That's
just
good to
wanted
know.
to explain what the process is for claims. It's not all just to me and I can change it here and there and do this and that. I don't do that and I try not to manipulate everybody's department. Everybody's looks different and so now I gotta get a new girl trained on how to look at them all and which ones, our office is prepared some of the county general and just because it's always been done that way, so we will still do that. But I have to have like those kind of things turned into me ahead of time so that we can get them out to everybody on time. If there's any issues, we can get them back to the department to fix before it's actually time to enter them and get them ready, because I'm trying to make a deadline so I can get it in your board packet as soon as it's open. I mean, I usually have that done on Monday morning. And I just wait for the board packet to come up on the, iPad, and then I throw them in there. So,
So you're also responsible for the payroll too.
and then payroll, I think we beat that one down pretty good.
Okay.
Again, I rely on the department heads to approve time
Yep.
cards. That's their thing.
Can I
I'm
have
not-
access, please?
Huh?
Yeah,
Can I
we're
have
working on it.
access, please?
We're working on it. It sounds like we're gonna have to buy that
Overtime?
next year.
Yeah.
We're not
Oh.
overtime?
It's not administrator.
I don't have any.
I don't understand why you wouldn't.
There's one
left.
Because
said
we
that
made
it was-
somebody else.
Oh, Leanne has access though at the court. I don't know, we can talk later, but maybe that one needs to be given to Danielle instead of Leanne.
And we were trying to,
Or just so I can
Decipher.
access it. I mean, just so I can,
I just think if we go to 2021 to 50, it was a huge increase. So it's up to you. If you guys want to pay for, the extra.
I don't know how much it is yet. I know my memory is, it's 2 years
I had
ago.
to find the proposal and I don't know what,
But
we
it
didn't get
was,
a new cost on it.
Was significant as I remember.
We could look at who has it now and maybe there's a person or something that's.
I
really
sent
not
you
used.
the list of who is, if there's somebody we can possibly take off.
It's one of about 40 emails in the last few days. I've
Yeah.
opened yet.
Well, right, I know we're all busy, but
Yeah.
the main thing is we know what Danielle's going through out there. And she's really doing a great job and this will be very beneficial for her. So we don't want to wait on this. She needs that access. It will help.
Is there any reason why Leanne should have that role? I don't want to take it from her.
approve it? I mean, I guess I don't have a problem with her approving the payroll. I just want to be able to access the information.
Mhm.
So if we could even just have a user.
Well, and that's what they charge.
That's the
is
problem.
users, yeah.
Okay, so but if you take it away from Leanne, Leanne still has to be able to have access to put her own time in, right?
No,
No.
he would have access to put it
As an
on
employee.
time as the employee, like she always did.
So does every department only have one person able to?
Have administrative.
Yeah.
I think so.
For the most part, except for sheriff's office.
Oh, yeah, got jail and
And-
sheriff.
Well, because you guys have bailiffs, everybody has one. And then you guys kind of split up the bailiff kind of thing. It's on multiple levels on that one.
I know, the bailiff thing is, that's confusing to me. What is it, the 4-step approval?
It's at least 3.
It's
It might
3,
be
I
four.
think. I think it's district court, Michael and Tim's the last one.
Did something happen at the jail though too? Yeah.
No,
Oh, yeah.
a couple employees are on the jail.
Yeah.
They're just, they split, if they were transport, or I don't know what is technical.
If they had transport or they were
I
part-time,
just put them in the jail.
Okay,
they
because-
come
so
through,
it's not going through that same.
no,
No, they're not, they're in a different group.
they come
That's
through the jail because that's where those employees are at. And then once the jail approves, it comes to me to send to Tracy.
But I think what she's talking about is the bailiffs working the hallway at the jail.
Correct, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're not in the bailiff. group,
I am
they're in the-
reviewing
Because they
Bailiff.
want to.
3 employees that carry bailiff time.
Okay.
So I see their bailiff hours and, but that doesn't go through the check and balances. of the
Separate.
court. It's-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess I constantly feel behind the ball. I I get the problems.
Then you should have the
And
access.
then so it's like, I feel like I'm always just behind the ball, like behind the ball in the sense of I don't know that there is even the potential of a problem until there is one, and then the limited access just over.
Yeah.
So
The thing is, it's up to 20 users. It's not like you can just pay for one extra user. It's like now you're going to from 21 to 50 or whatever.
and it could be.
is.
but some of the small
Oh, I
offices,
see.
I mean, like Denise and I each have 2 employees. I have to prove my own in that. I mean, we don't have the complexity at all. Is it possible to lump a couple of smaller officers together?
Well, then that means one of you guys would want to have to take over.
the
I mean,
responsibility
you're
for
looking
that.
at approving their time off and all that stuff. So as long as
I'm
you guys
just
want to work together.
throwing it out there.
Yeah,
It's pretty small and simple.
right. Well, yeah, each
I mean,
only have two.
I don't know how many offices are like that, but
Tim, you're quarterback in this?
Yeah, I suppose we could even put it under mine for your office. Yeah. Cause it's like a direct report department, so it can be like Tom.
He already approves mine.
That sounds like that'd be a.
Yeah, there, I mean, I think what you could do is if your employees request a day off, they could still do a little paper thing. And then you'd have to turn it into Tim to have him approve it.
I mean, I don't wanna deprive other people. I'm not trying to, I don't wanna.
No.
I don't wanna.
Frankie would look at this.
We're talking.
Yeah.
budget questions, it
No,
depends on how much-
it's well documented. I'm not a
thousands
big
of
fan of
dollars you guys wanna
overtime,
spend
but,
thousands, that's what we need to know. If it's
Well, we
like
need to find,
2,000
we need to find out
right.
what the cost is.
Right.
But if that's a solution,
Yeah,
Rather than-
I'd
rather
rather
than-
short of licenses.
Yeah.
I know Denise's office, my office, we have 6 people between us. It seems kind of crazy and they're pretty stable. I mean,
Well, the overtime makes it so simple. We've got the time off.
yeah, that time or they don't.
Contract saying unless there's some kind of emergency, we have to approve it. So it's kind of easy that way too. It's the whole accountability thing that really. This really helps, all the way around, but for me, I mean, it would be nothing to include equalization and,
because it's just you, right?
well, no, it's
No.
me and I've got Tom, I got building and grounds and
Building and zoning.
zoning, yes.
No
Yeah,
issue.
The problem I have is early punches and late punches. I have to correct their time cards all the time.
I've got Brian.
This is here at 8 o'clock every morning. She's gotta remember to punch in at 8:30. If she doesn't, then I gotta put her punch in, but she starts working at 8.
Well, she's not supposed to do that.
She's here, so she does.
Yeah, I think we just solved it. And you're the only one that I don't have on my list.
He has all the other appointed department heads, so he should have yours.
Yeah.
That way it's all uniformity
There you go.
done.
Yeah, Denise is elected office.
This is something we
I owe you.
pretty quick, right? And Danielle
I don't know what the process is. I go to Tracy and Tom how to change that.
Yeah, I just get hold of support if yeah.
Just let
do it.
Danielle know when the change is made, so she knows what she gets.
I have BSNA on the desktop, but I don't have a login.
Tom was working on your access, your user rights.
Oh, we can.
Engagement.
Right?
Look at that. We're-
We accomplished something today.
Well, it's your
See how
fault
important
right
this
there.
committee
Get
is?
Everybody
That's good.
together.
Are you looking at me? What's next, Danielle? What else do you-
Come on, Danielle, let's solve some more problems. But if you still don't have BSNA?
It's on the desktop. I just don't have a login.
We can fix that. I thought you had one.
Cause Tom is the
There you go.
administrator for that.
Right, how we doing here?
Access and login.
I think we're
and
doing
user
good.
rights.
And honestly, Tom, I just hit you with.
Are we any more from?
I don't think I have any.
All the players.
Yeah, this is good.
Because this player's doing one thing, this player's doing, and
Like when I let
as a
myself on.
counteracting one together. We don't even know
Very good.
it. Okay.
Tracy, I got a question for you. If you want, we can avoid the scanning. And go back to retrieving paper invoices when people have questions. Oh,
No.
oh,
You know,
That was a quick no.
No, because the auditors actually, they don't
It
come in
saves
and,
us time.
I know it does.
well, yeah, definitely. It
I know
saves
it
time
takes
in the
longer.
end. It just takes me longer to enter claims. So
Oh.
yes, I might have 2 days of entering claims, but it saves a lot when someone says, hey, I want, like,
We
they
started
want to see
scanning
invoice. I
all
can
of our
just pull it
documents.
and email it.
We went to BSNA. Now when we get phone calls, we're not going pulling hand cards. We're not looking at records. We have the information right there with the parcel. We can pull it up, say, yeah, you did this deed, it's
Correct.
messed up, or whatever notes are on there. That's been invaluable. I mean, that saves a ton of time on phone calls.
The software is definitely capable of a lot of stuff and we're utilizing it. It's taken more for input, but so much better. Like the posting
time, phone
builds back
calls.
to September. I'm doing it now when I'm entering it, not waiting for the auditors to move it after. I mean, we're doing it live.
But I can't tell you
So,
how many times I've
it's-
gone and pulled invoices just for things that even I've submitted.
It's,
The girls are in there. How many? So we're good.
Okay. Can we move on to public comment?
Sure.
Okay.
Only one user.
Any public comment? Any public comment from the Zoomers?
They
No
cannot,
public can hear but us.
they're able to.
Okay, and we've done the member comments, so. Just now, we've done all that, so. Next meeting I have November 3rd, and I'll tell you why I say that. Because November 3rd, during hunting, you can forget having a meeting. During Thanksgiving, you can forget about having a meeting. So I think November 3rd, and then after that one, yeah, it will probably be the beginning of December before we have another meeting.
Are you looking at putting these October 31st, these Zoom meetings as a meeting? Or is that just gonna be an optional,
This
training?
person can make a comment.
Yes,
I think if we had 2 weeks, the 10th of November, it's still before gun
We're
season.
closed on the tenth,
Well,
Veterans Day.
She already came to me.
that's why I did it the
Okay.
3rd.
I
Then
won't,
we won't be having another one for a month.
I'm off the grid on that day.
I know that.
I'm not available on on 3rd.
Well, maybe Mike LaFave will be available that day.
Well,
So,
can I appear? I have a jury trial, 2-day jury trial in Roscommon, going with a visiting judge. And it's contentious jury trial. Could I appear by Zoom? to participate?
absolutely.
So at least I can get the jury trial going there, and then my office.
Yep.
I can participate.
yep, you sure can. Because we're not voting on anything.
I won't.
The only
be
people that
here
can
the
vote
3rd.
on stuff like this, Board of Commissioners anyway.
I have an MAED meeting in Clare, and like Charles said, we're closed the 10th, 17th, I'm gonna be hunting. Next week, Thanksgiving, so the first week of December would be the first Friday that I'd be available.
When is
for
that
meeting.
Zoom? I mean, do you just wanna have your meeting on the 31st? I mean, I don't even know. What do you want us to have ready for the 3rd?
Or do you want to just wait until December because of the holidays?
Your way.
Do you want to, wait? I don't have my phone with me, so
I don't know what we're gonna get between now and the 3rd, as far as like information, what do we need?
Why don't you wait till December and use the in between for the training, the budget training?
December.
sounds
1st.
good. December 1st? Is that a Friday?
Hmm.
Would December 1st work for you, maybe Danielle?
What did you just say?
December 1st, Friday, December 1st,
9 AM.
9 AM,
I'll put it down here and I'll make it work.
December 1.
And then
Same,
in the
same place.
meantime, we can, for whoever is available, can do the Zoom training during that interim.
And those Zoom training be right in here, right? And what dates are those?
The 31st, the 7th, and the 14th, and they're an hour and a half. I think they
Okay.
were from 1 o'clock to
Okay.
2:30.
October, November, November,
I
One
think
thing under members' comments going back, we just set our date, so we're not gonna meet till December 1st.
December 1st.
And if we decide, if this committee needs to decide if we want to recommend to the commissioners to go for a Headley override millage, the date to do it in February would be in November, so we'd have to give that decision to them. Personally, I think we should wait till May.
I think we should
can
wait
see
until May
about the
too.
thing and see what we're doing, and it gives us a lot better time to prepare the information and get out and present the information to people. But like I say, I think if that's the purpose of this committee is make recommendations, commissioners, if we don't meet till the 1st December, we can't make that recommendation if that's what the board, if everyone's thoughts.
that was gonna be my comment, because if we wait, we're basically saying, well, either May or August.
So what does everyone think about that? I know we talked about it quite a bit earlier. We didn't make a decision, but if,
I like the idea of May if we don't have to pay for it.
Even if not, then what we have August is a backup, right? Even though, but you have the other.
But then we're,
Oh, then,
Okay,
No, it's just gonna have to be strategically planned. I mean, that's what it is. That's what it is.
and there's a, yeah. God, maybe the best bet, I guess. The only thing is I don't want to put that too far down. I would like to know what direction we have to head. If it passes or not, and if we do it in November, that's past our budget time.
and in May, one of the 3 school districts will have an election. I mean, we do have 3 school districts in the county.
Let's go for May. We'll let the clerks check on that one to see if they're gonna put something on in May. Because I know Cora's gonna put something on in February.
We'll know at our December meeting, so our option is not to push to put it on presidential primary.
okay.
So that's,
and then
Okay.
the December meeting, that'd be a big topic. We'll have some more information on it.
Yeah, hope so. Hope so.
I'm hoping to have the scale audit report in December as well. I don't know if it'll be December 1st, only December. I think I'd be pushing my luck. My estimate is gonna be December 1st, but
Well, and we could have 2 meetings in December too, like, December 1st, December 14th.
I would just rather present that in this venue before.
Yes,
And gives people time to, I guess, wrap their minds around it before the full board of commissioners.
yes.
About all the.
Another reason
all
why
these,
this
it sounds
is
like-
so valuable, what we're doing here.
So, well, I'm glad you all were here today. I'm hoping Mike can come. He had a issue today with training he had to be at. He had no choice. And
Denise,
Denise, I know, I don't know where she is. I talked to her early this morning. I expected her to be here. I don't know what happened. Something happened to happen. There's some issues with her right now too, so. Family, so,
Family.
so. Okay, let's
Okay.
go for December 1st.
Okay,
Time, it gives you time, and then is Mr. Booth is gonna be on with you, so you can give that opening to.
Yeah, well, I again don't know who has to be called and
make it
It's
happen.
It's in the. It's in the Nova time thing. I have a way to do it. I just don't want to do it without calling support because. Randy
She
is
might
a
end up-
user as, he's also an employee that punches
Right.
his time.
yeah.
So I don't want to mess his way
Employee
to
access.
put his employee time in. So I have to have them, I'll have to have them walk it.
It gets reported at transit unless something's gone wrong.
Tracy,
Well,
do
if
you have-
anything, it would block him out of, I think, trying to enter his own time because he was entered as a user, not an employee.
do you have time to do that today? I mean, just it's a hot topic. It's important. Might as well, if we can get it
And
done.
I mean, I know. that
Tracy's
people-
got a.
Well, payroll,
Right now.
payroll is on Monday, so I guess I'd rather have him at least approve.
That's fine. That's fine. Get
Go through the next
this
cycle.
today's, yeah,
Yeah.
you have today, yeah.
So, and then I'll run payroll on Monday and try to get a hold of support first of the week.
I'm gonna do a motion to adjourn, Brenda.
You just know it's coming.
I'll take a motion.
I appreciate it.
Motion by Randy, second by Tom. To
Okay.
adjourn.
Meeting's adjourned at 11:10. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for coming, and I'll see you on December 1st. I think it was worth our while to be here.
And then we'll
I
get the.
called